Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is another Hollywood celebrities dropping like M&F and flies.
They're dropping like flies.
Listen, people are dropping like flies out there.
I am
Boop.
pissed off.
We're dropping like flies around here.
We're dropping like flies here.
Jeez, sir, 2 more just went down. Dropping like flies.
Too many people around here been dropping like flies already, and where's that getting us, huh? Nowhere. Fast.
Biden's being Biden's being an extremist.
Crush that fly.
This is going to be another weird. This is probably the weirdest one ever. A lot of jam-packed stuff in here. Going to revisit the mic thing, the it's all about me thing.
So today is going to be all about me.
Oh, drops the mic.
And then so many other stories and just a lot of stuff here. That's I don't know, all interesting stuff today. But I want to do a narrative. I want to switch over to my voiceover. It's easier to me to talk about these things. But I want to start here with 2 subjects. One is to do with the submarine and not about the submarine itself, the Titanic submarine. And the other one is about the Petrosian Wagner coup in Russia. And, interesting storylines that we've seen before. So it says, James Cameron's OceanGate safety regrets not speaking up more. The Titanic director has made 33 dives to the shipwreck. 33 times, 33 dives. And so people were talking about 33, and I got multiple comments, people talking about that to me yesterday. And then Russia's Petrosian admits links to what U.S. says was election meddling troll farm. And so this Russia's Wagner Group founder admits to U.S. election interference. This is the guy here that's supposed to do the coup. Wagner chief admits to funding Russian troll farm sanctioned for meddling in U.S. elections.
This isn't Charmin. No wonder I don't feel as clean.
Hurry up, Dad.
So they got a Charmin commercial here.
You've been in there forever.
Yeah, come on, Dad.
I'm trying. This cheap stuff is too thin.
I told you not to get the other toilet paper. Here's Charmin Ultra Strong.
Ah, my bottom's been saved.
With its diamond weave
Wow.
texture, Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better with fewer sheets and less effort.
What's everybody waiting for? This?
Okay.
No, they're not waiting for that. No family is waiting for their dad to do that. No, I got to talk about that as well.
Done. We know you're clean. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
I do want to ask you about this comment by Prigozhin, this Russian oligarch linked to Putin,
right.
Who appeared to admit, maybe he was joking, I don't know, the Russian interference in U.S. elections. He told Telegram, quote, gentlemen, we interfere, and we will interfere. What did you make of the comments, and are you confident in the security of tomorrow's elections?
So this in and of itself is an information operation. This is disinformation, what Prigozhin is doing. So this is Putin's chef. He runs the notorious...
Putin's chef, right? So this is from... it was updated here, February 14, 2023, because of what's happened recently. But this was years and years ago. This is about the election interference, the rigged election in 2016 to do with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So this guy was also in prison. Petrosian was born in 1961 and was then in Leningrad. As a teenager, he was caught and punished for theft, the first in a series of increasing more serious crimes, including armed robbery and trafficking in underage minors, that led him to serve just over 9 years in prison. Okay, so let's start with the Russia thing first. As I was watching, I don't know what it was, CNN, MSNBC, or whatever, and they're telling the story of how this guy's life, Petrosian, and his seedy person who was I guess a cook for Putin and working with Putin, and there was somebody who was in with Putin, and he had his own sort of private mercenary army of criminals and whatever, seedy people, mercs, former military, or the same kind of thing we have here. And he was one of these power brokers. It looks like something you'd see in some bad James Bond or some spy novel where there's a coup. Like this type of coup looks like a scripted coup that takes place in Russia. There was a movie that I can't remember the exact name of it. It was about a submarine. And some military leader had kidnapped the prime minister, the leader of Russia, some, general, and he took over with a coup. And so, like, it's just, there's these scripted coups, like just look a little bit made for a bad B-rate action movie. And that's what this reads like. And you see these narratives come up time and time again where you're like, I've seen this in a movie before. And I guess The Simpsons predicted this submarine thing as well. And you just see it over and over again. The thing with the submarine, the Titanic narrative is this, that J.P. Morgan built the Titanic. And I don't know if any of this is true, but this is the truther narrative that goes with the Titanic. That's been around for a while. And that J.P. Morgan built 2 Titanic vessels. One was built to sink, and the other one was the one he was going to use for his whatever. He invited many of his rivals and financial people onto the launch of the Titanic. At the last second, he didn't get on the boat. He pulled out. And the boat was built as an icebreaker. You can see from the movie, and again, the movie's the movie, that they tried to steer away from the iceberg instead of hitting it head on, which is how an icebreaker boat is built, right? It was built so that it could deal with these giant icebergs that are floating in the middle of the Atlantic and this trip across the ocean. And so they steered away from it, and it sliced open the side. That's the official story, but there's just been all these theories that it was intentionally sunk because it was like one of these things where there's documentation on it, and there was important people that they, rivals of J.P. Morgan on this, conspiracy, whatever it was, right? And that's the idea behind it. Now there's these separate theory that's come out that the people on the sub were silenced because they were, about to break some story open or whatever. And that they were, similarly dealt with, and their voyage was sabotage. And these things go through the truth community all the time. Narratives like this. And they're very formulaic. I'm not saying it's true or false, but they're just the way that truth community narratives always take place. I talked about this in the past, where there's this guy claiming that there was a abuse camp in Arizona. And it was a guy who was an attention seeker, a guy who, and I'm going to talk more about attention seekings when we go back to the It's All About Me girl. But this guy was claiming that some homeless abandoned hobo camp was some sort of they're abusing kids out there. And all the QBs and all the people that were in on that made a big deal about it. Alex Jones got involved for a little bit, other people did, and then they really ended up smelling a rat. But this guy, they had a leather strap that was hung to a tree, which is obviously for hanging things that, in case it rained or whatever. And eventually they found that the land was owned by a company that had ties to the Clintons. And that always happens. Like, you have these right-wing people, and there'll be a conspiracy theory, and it will always involve Soros or involve the Clintons. It just always comes back to some predictable narrative. And people on the right eat it up. And, oftentimes it's just disinformation either made by, the intelligence community, but more often just by people looking for attention, looking to stir the pot up. And they create these templates of information out there. But then again, the people that run these true, diabolical conspiracies are very formulaic, and they put these things in movies and TV shows. And so, it's hard to know which is true and what. That's why I don't get into this stuff anymore. And I don't really care about it, because it could be a thing, or it could be just, it's either something that's performative. It's there to be a distraction. It's there to move you one way or another, move the masses. It's there as a performance in the show. It's disinformation or it's just real or whatever, but it's, who knows what goes on with these things. And people have an obsession with this, and it's, at some point it's time to move on, right? You got to realize most of these things have nothing to do with you, and you're never going to expose the truth or figure out the truth because that's not available. Like, it's just, it's saturated in so much deception, and there's so much, disinformation out there. Finding that truth about these things isn't there. But these predictable patterns always come up, whether they're predictable because the people who run the system follow a set of like storylines and narratives that are, they're predictable. They're just always, formulaic, and there's a template, or the people who make up stuff and create conspiracies that aren't real also follow a predictable pattern of storylines and narratives. And so for me, that's like, all right, whatever, it's, no, people are like, no, you don't, you don't know the truth about this thing. I'm like, all right, neither do you. Like, you see it, and you make your best guess at what you think is going on and how much it really affects you, and then you move on, right? And like this thing that happened in Russia might not have even have happened, but it's very highly suspicious that the guy was allegedly a part of the 2016 election debacle, which wasn't even a real thing. I mean, the information out there was, mostly the interference surrounded the hacking of the DNC, which was the DNC's fault for getting hacked, and Russia Today TV, which was, not that influential. The people watching Russia Today were no way going to vote for Clinton. And so that was just all made up. There was a report put out by the, joint intelligence community of the CIA, FBI, and NSA. It was like a 20-page report. Now, scanned through most of it. I mean, I got the gist of it. And they focused on a hacking group named GRU, GRU, like the character, the Russian character looks like Fetterman, who was supposedly hacked and gave the information to WikiLeaks that helped torpedo Clinton's campaign, which, of course, Podesta and the DNC got hacked. Podesta wrote a paper for Obama on cybersecurity, and he gave up his password, right? Like, so that's just, whatever that is. And most of it was about Russia Today and the disinformation of, like, truth media that was, hammered Clinton. But all the people who were watching that weren't voting for her anyway. So it was like, she had a 2-to-1, she had like twice as much money as Trump, and she had a ground game and experience she has these political, these seasoned political operations of getting out the vote. Trump really didn't have any of that stuff, right? Trump was, a newbie, and he burned through his political advisors, but he didn't have the infrastructure that the Clintons and the DNC had built up for years. The Republicans were kind of against Trump and were kind of sabotaging and working against him. And so if there's any legitimacy to the election, and I don't know if it was, how much it was rigged and how much they wanted Trump, but clearly Clinton had the advantage and underperformed, whatever that means, right? Whether that was staged, whether it was rigged, whether it was just people don't like her, whatever, the outcome was. And these papers, these theories were bogus. And so this Wagner group and Petrosian claiming that they hacked that election is ridiculous because they didn't. Nobody did. I mean, Clinton hacked it herself by sucking and being an unlikable person. And so this is the kind of stuff that, it's all BS. Like, it's just, I don't get stressed out about it. I don't think about it that much because I don't need to know. Like, I don't need to know the truth. And none of these things are affecting me the way, other things like the systemic collapse that no one's talking about, possible World War III, things that are going to change your lifestyle. Those are the things, these things are leading up to it, but those are inevitable things that nobody can stop. Not the government, not the controllers, not even, highly developed divine beings. This is God's will, and this system's coming down because it needs to. And that's what this is, this segment of Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies, this is what these videos are about, right? That the system's crumbling and no one can stop it. And, you might as well find some humor in it because, otherwise you'll just be sad and depressed, right? All right, let's get into the other stories here. Okay, so I may want to make a comment on something that's going to be covered later on in a very, well, you'll know when I get to it. And so, it's my belief in terms of, life and understanding just how mammals are raised by, in the mammalian model and certainly within the human model and spiritually with Sajmarg and things like this. Talks by the third master of the system, Master Chargy, that children need to be at home. Like there's this rush to bring children out into the world, right? Early education, like getting kids out of the house when they're 2 and they're 3, getting them into daycare. Moms working, getting them into daycare when they're even infants, and then starting to educate them at a very young age. Whereas, this teaching Master Chargy said that, that a child up to the age of 6 and 7 should spend all of its time with its mother, and a child that's loved in, the motherly love, familial love, can become anything in this world. And we see so much damage being done by, kids aren't loved, the family breaking down, and all of it. Now, of course, with screens and computers, even if kids are at home, they're engaging with the world, right? And so there's also a rush to bring information to kids' attention when they're younger than they can deal with it. And there's, certain developmental milestones, and when those kids haven't reached those milestones, there's information that's out there on the internet and now in schools that is being fed to them. You guys all know what I'm talking about in various ways, liberal agenda, Hollywood agenda, things to do with the, powers that be, the UN or whatever it is internationally, and then, this global movement to indoctrinate children to a certain way of believing that's, not natural or not aligned with the divine principles. And it's a form of abuse, sexual abuse, if it's sexual information, to give kids information they're not ready to handle because they haven't developed the capacity, their brains aren't fully developed, and they need to remain innocent for as long as possible. A child's innocence and wonderment is there for their development. Children being able to spend time exploring their world and figuring out through observation. I showed you in my last video this kid who's asleep and he's making movements like he's on a cell phone or a tablet while he's asleep. They're not having interactions with their world and wondering and staring at like a frog or a caterpillar or, going out and, building mud pie, playing in the dirt and, things like that. When I was a little kid, I just started digging a pit, right? Like, I was just digging a hole in the ground. It was above my head. I had to climb out of it, and I hit solid rock, like it was in my backyard. But I'd still be digging, I think I had plans to see if I could dig a hole all the way through the center of the earth to China. I wasn't even sure why I was doing it, but I dug a 5-foot hole. I remember getting the hose back there and soaking it because the ground was so hard and compact. And I was a little kid, I had no weight and no, but it was like a 5 by 5 by 5 foot hole. Like it was 5 feet wide, it was, pretty big. And, and I dug a hole and I hit solid rock and I had to fill it back in. And there was a mound, because it just the dirt doesn't compress, at first or whatever. And there's a little mound there where it used to be a hole, and, that's just the way it was, right? But we all, did things like that, explored our universe, and kids don't do that now, right? And there's so much control being exhibited by the powers that be. But at the same time, in terms of sex education, which is going to be discussed later on, there is a problem because kids don't want to talk to their parents about sex, and parents don't want to talk to their kids about sex, but kids are watching porn now at a very young age and being sexualized in often deviant ways and there's no adult supervision. And so there is some legitimacy to the governments and the school system wanting to deal with that and tell kids information that, might be important for them to know, and they're not going to get it from their friends or from the internet. And yet there's also a level of it being evil, sex education in schools and giving them information and warping their way of thinking. So it's it's not a completely one-sided thing, because they're not going to get it from their parents, right? Like, as parents, it's uncomfortable talking to your kids about this. I mean, for most parents, and most kids don't want anything to do with their parents talking about it. I'm going to show you something else. A basketball player stroking his mom's legs. Weird. That's coming. There's just all this weirdness out there. But ideally, the solution is to restore the family, and not just the mom and dad and, what we consider the nuclear family, but the extended family and the neighbors and people who are all there, raising kids, and the information they're getting is good information. It's not seedy information on the internet. They're not watching, creepy, almost criminal level type of stuff on the internet that's put out by bad, deranged people. And the state and the government aren't overseeing the information that's being presented, aren't indoctrinating their kids into their, warped beliefs, right? That would come from a pure place, people who are, good people connected to God, who are, have the child's best interest at heart. And, they give them information when it's necessary, and they explain things. And, the kids have a full education, not some warped education, when it comes to when they start engaging in these adult behaviors, sexual behaviors, certainly, which is becoming something that's happening younger and younger, and kids are, entering puberty younger and younger, and there's all these other factors, right? And, it's not a good thing, because, we all know it's not a good thing. We see the way it's going. And you'll see that, you'll understand that when I get to that part of the video. All right, so let's get into everything here. Okay, so I got a bunch of stuff to get to here. I've been keeping this thing up with Jamie Foxx. Kind of a news story from Page 6. They're saying Jamie Foxx is recovering well. Jamie Foxx is recovering well as public concerns mount, family member says. So they got a family member to sort of go on record anonymously and say he's recovering well, which means nothing. Like, they can say that about anybody who's alive if he's in a coma, right? The fact is he's disappeared for a number of months now. It says a 55-year-old Oscar winner who is known as the consummate entertainer has been MIA since suffered a medical complication while filming Netflix action comedy Back in Action in Atlanta. Remember, the next day after it happened, his daughter said that he had a health concern from a medical complication. And we've never heard what that medical complication is. The family asked for privacy. They're given a timeline here. But it says here, Page 6 can reveal that a family member said Foxx is recovering well, but also discloses mounting concern inside Hollywood that the silence surrounding Foxx could affect his future career. Now, here's an outgoing guy who was a networker, and he has disappeared. Like, he's not out in Hollywood. There's a basketball court he built in his hometown of Texas that bears his name, and they just inaugurated it, and he was supposed to be there. He didn't show up for that. He didn't show up for premieres. His friends don't know what's going on. The people that are employing him, he's in the middle of filming a Netflix movie, and he's not, contacted them. And so they don't know what's happened to him, right? So, this is the family. This is two daughters there. But the longer he stays disappeared, the more it looks like that he's suffered something severe. Foxx is known to be recuperating in a clinic in Chicago that specializes in stroke recovery, traumatic brain injury rehab, spinal cord injury rehab, and cancer rehabilitation. And Mike Tyson claimed that Jamie Foxx suffered a stroke. He's not feeling well. This is all the way back in May. So this happened on May 11th. It's been over 2 months, and nobody's seen or heard from him. And the family is saying he's doing fine, but there's just nothing, right? And there's growing concern within the Hollywood community that this is something more severe, which, you know, it goes with the original rumor that he's paralyzed and or blind and, you know, suffered from, you know, possibly having the boop. I gave a little extra there. And so, you know, the longer he stays away, the more it looks like that story's true. And they're just hiding it away, right? You know, I got more information about this. Today is my day, girl, right? So this is a liberal arts college here. Let me show you this video first.
Hey, I want the mic. I want the mic. Let go. Let go. Let go. You didn't let me get my moment, so I want to say my name is Khadijata Diallo, and I'm graduating today. I don't like how you snatched the mic out of my hand, so today is going to be all about me. Drop the mic.
So, this was the beginning of the liberal arts school. So it must have been maybe a school before this. And she starts off here, and you can see that the woman's going to show up here. These guys are just now. It's their turn, right? And
get happy with it.
Like she's, you know. So this girl's coming up here, and there seems like there's two lines from. They didn't show this year's, but the previous years they put up. They have video of the previous years. I'll show you a little bit from that. But she was from a different major or school or something, and she's coming up behind the woman. You know, so like it's already somebody else's turn, right? It's another school. Like this is the liberal arts part of the school. And she's going to come up and snatch the mic while she's, you know, it's somebody else's turn, right? This is the school, LaGuardia College, LaGuardia Community College. They have a liberal arts school. They have various schools here, right? And so that's when, I don't know what, she was, she obviously was a liberal arts student, but it's a community college, like I said, and it's in the liberal New York area. And the majority of people here, which you'll see, are people of color. So this idea that this older white woman who's probably really liberal and from New York, and you can see here, this is from the previous year. So here they're taking turns. This is from 2022. This is a 2-hour and 25-minute ceremony. And she's, this guy's holding a mic here. She's holding a mic here. This is from, you know, some years ago.
Jonathan Perez.
Lisbeth Martinez. Aaliyah Bassan. McNett Miller.
Sakai Khan.
Nishay Robinson from Jamaica.
Tiari Richmond.
Dianis Ribas.
Jonathan Gonzalez.
Jessica Carranza. Haley Santiago. Marietta Grabowska.
Angel Martinez.
So again, it's mostly people of color, and they're patiently letting each person get a turn. This goes on for a long time here.
Sherry Angelina Rodriguez Lopez. Love you, Ma! Stephanie Rosario. I love you, Mommy. I love you, Papi. May Hussein. Joanna Saiteros.
So you see there's some liberal boomer, you know, Dean over here. She's clearly not racist. And I should have played this clip a little bit longer because the guy coming next is going to say something that's very telling. But I found it later on. It took me a while, but if I just let it play here, I'm realizing I would have been able to save myself some time. But, you know, clearly not racist. Clearly, you know, this was just a bogus claim for personal attention and, you know, internet fame and the rest of it. So here is, this woman has a smile on her face here. This is from this year. They don't have any audio. You see she's smiling. There's a guy over here. They're taking turns. They're holding the mic up. There's no mic smashing, right? I mean, she seems to be happy here doing this job. You see that she's, you know, smiling, this guy, whatever. So this is the way they do it. There was actually two people doing that as they fill in the rows. More of it here, right? A little bit, go back there. And, they're holding the mic and there are no problems, right? Everyone's getting a chance to say what they have to say. And so, this is bogus racism to make something legitimate. Because if she just grabs the mic and says what she says, she looks like a selfish narcissist. The only way to make it work is to say that she was racist, right? That there's some form of racism here. But, there clearly wasn't. Karen snatched mic and denied diploma from black woman. So the white woman's the Karen here. This has 54,000 views. But there's all these other videos. Black woman exposes mic snatching graduation girl. Racism as new video evidence proves she lied. Just all these other things, right? You could tell that this was something that there's a lot of young people who will do anything outrageous to get social media fame. And I'll show you that in a moment. She's now made her TikTok account private because the thing kind of backfired, right? But here's more evidence from, well, let's just show you this here.
Amy Gomez, Angelica Chiara Villar, Nina Abulelo, Amoya Doily, Alessandra Robinson, Janelle Wellington. Big up Jamaica!
So she said, that one woman said her full name, and then she said, shout out Jamaica. There was another one on that original video here. Let me see if I can find that one. So here's another example. There's something else I want to find here, but.
Cole?
Imani D. Berry,
Ambrose Carter.
Aaliyah Mary. Deandra Darboux. Lanisa Jordan.
So again, this woman's doing her job. This is from a year ago. She's doing the same job a year later. Again, there's very few white people here. So it's just not there, right? Like, it's just one of these false claims of racism.
Jeremy John Mendez. I love you, Alyssa.
Jada Lynn Santana.
So you see they're getting, plenty of time.
Joanna Saiteros. Fatima Johara Shamukti from Bangladesh. Love you, my family.
Jose Vargas from Dominican Republic.
This is just the beginning. Archana Tapagan from Nepal.
Gustavo Hernandez Chacoyo. Follow me on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter. Now, nobody's listening. Nobody's listening to these names unless you're a relative or something. Like, name any of the people they called out their names. You've been watching this. You don't remember their names. I don't remember their names, right? It's not a big deal. It's a moment where you have a mic and there's a bunch of people kind of listening to you and you're excited, whatever it is, graduation. But if you create a viral moment, everybody knows that one girl now, right? This has been going on in New York here for a while. This is their campus, and LaGuardia is there's a LaGuardia airport. Somebody famous, I don't know who it is, don't care, don't tell me, don't need to know. And so this is some community college there. And if you just go and do what you're told here and, be a good citizen, nobody's going to notice you. But if you go and come back in line and snatch the mic and have a viral moment and then claim racism, well, you got something there, right? you got a pathway to internet fame. And this is the girl's TikTok channel now. It is a private account. She now has 62,000 followers, 41 million likes, and you can follow her. I don't have an account on TikTok and I don't want to follow her anyway, but you could follow her and see her videos. And we saw yesterday she had billions of views on her videos. She became famous. She was rewarded for this, right? She was rewarded for acting out and, making a bogus claim of racism. Anytime there is a boy who cries wolf type situation, we saw this with Jussie Smollett. We saw it a different way with Alex Jones, whatever it is. When you make false claims and then you get caught, you hurt your own group. You don't hurt the opposing group. Like, there's a lot of white people that are upset by this, but it's really the African American community that should be bummed because it just dismisses legitimate racism claims, right? Which there are. there is legitimate racism in America and other places, just like there's legitimate prejudices in every group and every, there's all these things exist. But if you make something up for your own personal gain, crapping on your own group and demographics just so you can get yourself a little fame, and this is what young people do now, this is a little bit more heinous, right? And, that woman who's been doing that job forever and, patiently holds the mic for these graduates. And, she didn't snatch the mic. I mean, there's no showing when that girl went through because they haven't posted the video, probably for obvious reasons. And all those people, who would have video record, like the year before, all those graduates have a video record of being able to say their name, right? They don't, unless somebody was taping for them, they don't have that because that woman decided to, act out this way. But like I said, when there is behavior that, falsely accuses somebody, and then it's good for the other side, right? So it doesn't help your demographic. I've talked about Alex Jones acting crazy. Hurts the truth community. Stuff with Jussie Smollett, right? That hurts the idea of hate crimes. They all say, oh, you're just doing another Jussie Smollett. So this is a real selfish act by a person who wanted social media fame. And then once she got it, she made her account private, right? And, you're going to see more and more of this because there's a reward for it. She got what she wanted. She got fame. She got, social media run, attention, things like that. And, people believe her story. And that other woman who's been doing this job for years and, out of the blue, somebody comes up behind her, grabs the mic and basically calls her a racist and, goes online, says that she was a racist and, she's just doing her job, right? And, it's just what's happened now with the youth, right? What's up with the youth? A great man, Corey J. Feldman, once said, "What's up with the youth?" I spend a lot of time on that, but it's so indicative of the youth today and all of it, right? It's just, whatever it is. So I did a thing on the world's greatest seagull that used, watched people open the automatic doors and walked into a supermarket and took a sandwich off the shelf and started eating it outside, and a woman was chasing it. You guys remember that video? I need to show that again sometime. Well, I figured that was the world's greatest seagull, but... There's a seagull eating a squirrel. I mean, I don't know. People are going to always send me seagull stuff now, and animal stuff in general. UPS worker dies after collapsing on his route during excessive heat. I haven't been covering, all the people dying. But Eugene Gates Jr., 66, lost consciousness in front of a yard on Lakewood, Texas, home during his mail route, Channel 4 reported. There's a Ring video. We don't need to see that. You guys can check it out. And now the guy's dead. We got tornado sirens going on outside. I don't think there's a risk of a tornado. It's barely even, the winds are not really moving that much here yet. But I might have to go to the basement.
I was talking to both Elon and Mark last night. Both guys are absolutely dead serious about this. They both want to do it. Mark Zuckerberg hit me up first and said, "Is he serious?" And I said, "I don't know. Let me ask him." I asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm dead serious. This would be the biggest fight ever in the history of the world. Bigger than anything that's ever been done. It would break all pay-per-view records. These guys would raise, hundreds of millions of dollars for charity. And, you don't have to be a fight fan to be interested in this fight. Everybody would want to see it."
Okay, so Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are going to go MMA. I showed you Mark Zuckerberg doing jiu-jitsu. So Elon Musk posted this today Wake up, there's another psyop. Here we go again. I'm not sure what he's referring to. So I don't know if he's talking about the Wagner revolt. Wagner pulls out from advancing on Moscow. W2F put it back in. I don't know if Elon's talking about there, but here is a basketball player named Kobe Buffkin. Now, this is his mom. He's been drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. You can see here, I'll turn the thing on. He's stroking his mom's leg here in a very weird and sexual way. And it goes on for, 35 seconds, according to the video. He's, rubbing his mom's knee there. And yeah, it's getting just more uncomfortable the longer it goes on. And she doesn't seem to either notice or care. And I don't know why he's doing that, but it's just weird as F. Oh, he's patting her knee there. And, this is a better view of it, right? I don't know why he'd be doing that, but he is. And it's just another creepy thing that's going on. I mean, it's just a little bit more here. And yeah, so that's, here it is. Let it finish up here. Okay, so one of my viewers sent me this. Let me start from the beginning here. And I said, well, why are you sending me this? Because there's no text to it. But I figured, I covered the Vanderpump Rules, something to do with it. Like, I've never seen the show. And, I get a general sense it's about, rich, entitled, horrible human beings, young people. And this kind of, let's just see this here.
Reunion. I'm still recovering from it. I won't even lie. I love filming Vanderpump Rules. I get this high off of it.
Yeah.
But there are so many times that I leave kind of feeling bleh. And after that reunion, I felt so dirty.
What was the hardest part for you?
What was the hardest part for you? What was the hardest part for you? For you, what was the hardest part? Not for anybody else, for you. I mean for you. Why do you... these boobs who talk like this, right? What's the hardest part for you? For you, I mean you.
I just think being in a room with people who are so capable of doing just the most fucked up things, that breaks a person to their soul.
Now I kind of remember she got cheated on, this girl. But she says she loves filming Vanderpump Rules, but she's around people who do the most effed up things, who break people to your soul, and it makes you feel dirty. And there's kind of a contradiction here, right? These are not good people. It's not a good show. It just looks horrible.
I was really triggered by it. And the things that Sandoval was saying were just so disgusting.
PE teacher waiting his turn to present the end of year Sportsman's Award. That is an excellent meme right there. There he is. He's got some kind of, look at the difference in the size of his shoes. He's got it seems like that one, and it seems like when he walks, maybe this leg is much shorter than the other leg. I mean, he's got all kinds of ogre things going on there. So this happened.
All to tell you about several brands of frozen strawberries, mixed fruits, and smoothie blends have been linked to an outbreak of hepatitis A, making at least 9 people sick. The recalled products were sold in dozens of states at Walmart, Costco, and H-E-B stores under the brand names Great Value and Raider Farms. Customers are urged to check their freezers and either throw out the products or return them to the store for a refund. An important recall.
Death by smoothie. The new Death by smoothie. Tom Brokaw talks about battle with blood cancer in CBS Evening News Sunday morning interview. What do you try to do is control as much as you can. Look, he's all bloated here and just, I don't know how old he is. It'll say here somewhere probably. He worked at the network for 55. He must be in his 70s or whatever it might be. Pants on fire. Harvard behavioral scientist who studies dishonesty is accused of fabricating data in multiple research papers. Not that guy. This guy right here. And so, Okay, so this is from the WHO, which you're not allowed to criticize on YouTube. Maybe for something like this, I don't know. About other things, I don't know. But I'm not going to criticize them. I'm not going to offer any commentary whatsoever. But my wife sent me a video from some guy who was in front of, I believe, Parliament in Great Britain. I think he was Irish. And he was reading from this document. I couldn't find the exact document he was reading from. And maybe they've changed it. And so this is the Standards of Sexual Education in Europe, Frequently Asked Questions. I think they've tried this before. But it says here, what do you say? Well, what does it mean when you say that the sexual education should start from birth? So this talks about getting to the kids young and teaching them about sex education from a very young age. And I don't know how they would go about that when kids are born. They're not in school. And so I don't even know. Why start sexual education at an early age? You can find this document for yourself and you decide what you think about it. I'm not going to offer my opinion, like I said, but it is being done there in Europe, or being proposed to be done in Europe, and at least one politician was very unhappy about it. Is it just me, or is it getting weirder and weirder? Like, I covered a few things in the beginning, and I did an extra long voiceover. It's Sunday, and went out and did stuff with my wife, and now it's dinner time. So I didn't even get to my other browser. I'm having this problem on both my channels now. Like, I get to an hour content, and it's usually downhill from there, and I'm not able to cover everything anymore. And so there's just so much weird stuff, and I'm not covering stories. I didn't really cover the sub story and some of these other stories. I'm not covering everything. And I'm making other content too about my, like the Gratefulness meditation, the journey series, and things like that. So I'm just not able to keep up with the depravity. Like, there's just too much. The rabbit of depravity is just outrunning the greyhounds, right? Like, there's just too much stuff there. Anyways, there'll be more stuff a couple days from now. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.